Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session, Oral to Lead to Healthier and Climate Neutral Cities. My name is Tumi, and I'm the Head of Sustainable Mobility at ICLEI World Secretariat. And I will have the honor of moderating today's event for you. ICLEI is a network of 2,500 cities, regions, and towns, and we are operating in more than 120 countries. Before we get started, I would like to share with you a couple of housekeeping rules. This webinar will be recorded, and we will make the recording available after the session on the ICLEI World Congress website. Today's session is available in English. However, a couple of presenters will present in Spanish. So if you would like to follow the entire presentation in English, please click on the globe icon and choose the English channel so that so you will hear all the presentations in English. And otherwise, by default, you will hear the presentation either in English or in Spanish, depending on the language of the speakers. You are also automatically muted, but you will have the opportunity to submit your questions throughout all the presentations in the question box. And the last but not least, there is also a chat box with the technical questions. And my colleagues that are behind the scenes will also help you to address any technical issues that you might encounter, and at the same time they will also share some links that are relevant, so keep an eye on that in that space as well. So without further ado, since we have 60 minutes to cover a lot of ground today, I would like to present you the agenda of today, which is we have 4 wonderful speakers live, Giesing Hansen, who will share the mobility experience in Malmö. Then we will move virtually to Kigali with Françoise Zirikana. And then we will then move to the Spanish part of presentations with Fernando Narvaez from Quito, Ecuador, and with Eleonora Pires in Rosario, Argentina. So at the end of these presentations, you will have the opportunity to, we will have an opportunity to have a conversation with the different speakers, and so your questions are mostly welcome, and please keep them short and address the specific speakers so that we know it will be easier to sort out the different questions. So I look really forward to hear about from all our speakers about the importance of including public policies and solutions in fighting climate change and trying to build healthier cities. And in this hour with this wonderful lineup, we will have the opportunity to learn on how the different cities are working to decarbonize transport as part of their climate strategies, while making our cities more equitable, inclusive, and also people-friendly. So the first presenter I would like to introduce is live, Giesing Hansen, and he has extensive experience in transportation. He's the project leader in the municipality of Malmö in Sweden, and he's organizing project and activities linked to mobility research, strategic infrastructure planning, and planning processes. And in particular, he is also responsible to, or assigned to, the development of the metro line between Malmö and Copenhagen, and previously he was a senior advisor in Copenhagen Metro. I would like to give the floor to you, Leif, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good evening and afternoon to everybody in this ICLEI workshop. I'm pleased to participate in this, and my name is, as it was introduced, Leif Giesing, and I'm working at the municipality of Malmö. In my short presentation, I will give you an introduction to the development of traffic and mobility in Malmö, and also finish off by introducing the work of transit-oriented development, a concept which we think is very interesting when dealing with issues of reducing car traffic and, on the other hand, also increasing accessibility in cities. Normally, we can say that the mobility, of course, is a kind of prerequisite for activity and development in cities and in societies at large. But however, when mobility is performed by different forms of transport and other modes, especially car traffic in cities, it creates some kind of challenges. And this has been the case also in cities like Malmö. Usually there is a close relationship between growth in population and in cities and the corresponding growth of mobility measured as daily trips by any means in the city, by car, by cycling, walking, or public transport. An example from a city I worked in is Copenhagen, where the population growth has been from 600,000 at the moment, and it is expected that it will grow to 700,000 in 2025. And that corresponding number of daily trips will increase from 6.8 million trips per day to 7.5 million trips per day. So it's quite an increase just during these years, which can be expected. The challenge for a city like Copenhagen, like many other cities, is to handle this growth of demand for mobility in a smart manner. In cities like Copenhagen and Malmö in Sweden, the approach has been to minimize growth in car traffic and at the same time provide opportunities for public transport, cycling, and walking in the cities, thereby both providing good accessibility and mobility in a more efficient way than using space and resources for private cars in the city. Here you see some key features of traffic and mobility development in the city of Malmö. We have had a vision plan for traffic and mobility, where we had the vision in 2016 to decrease the use of daily trips of especially cars up to 2030. And this was the idea that was quite ambitious, but actually already when we made a new survey in 2018, it seems that we have already reached nearly these targets, that the car traffic trips share of the total trips in the Malmö was reduced from 40 to 33%. So actually, we are trying now to make a new vision plan with more ambitious goals for 2040, where we are more ambitious about the modal split of the future growth of traffic in Malmö. It is, of course, difficult to pinpoint actually what kind of measures has caused this positive development. But some of the measures that has been in work in Malmö has been changed norms for establishment of parking space when new urban sites are developed. So that means fewer square meters per car available. Also, opening of a new train ring line in the city, a tunnel connecting different districts of Malmö with fast and frequent railway service has proved very effective and actually risen the number of passengers using public transport in Malmö. Last but not least, we have also had a very expansion strategy on the widespread of cycling paths and network in Malmö. However, the car traffic has primarily been reduced in the city center of Malmö, and we are still experiencing a rise in car trips in and out of Malmö. So there's still something to be done with this strategy. What is interesting looking at this is, however, when we see the development of car traffic and population growth in Malmö, we can see on the figure on the left side that there are indications that the growth of mobility by cars with the dotted or with the blue line has somehow decreased, and the population growth in Malmö, which is increasing and will reach around 350,000 people in a few years. It seems that there's not necessarily this strong linkage between car trips and population growth as it used to be. And that could be due to some of these different strategies that I mentioned. And on the right hand, you can see that especially public transport, train traffic and so on has increased dramatically during these years. So that is a quite positive development. Again, it is difficult to say or point to a single measure or strategy that could have caused this development, but an interesting new planning approach has gained some interest in many Nordic countries, also in Sweden and in Malmö, called transit-oriented development. And elements of transit-oriented development has been part of a development of the recently built public transportation nodes like stations and bus terminals in Malmö and the southern part of Sweden. So I'll just introduce that concept very briefly. In short, transit-oriented development is focusing on the whole public transport trip from when it starts, A, to B, where it ends, including all types of involved transport modes including transport mode stops and terminals in this journey. It also focuses on how better integration of stations and terminals with the surrounding urban environment, and how that can have significant impact on how to make public transport more attractive for passengers, actually. And in other words, the attractiveness of choosing public transport is not only about speed, frequency, and reliability, which are very traditional way of planning public transport, but it is also about comfort and being safe for the passengers and being able to combine different tasks during a trip. Give you two examples on this before I end the presentation. One is that the physical distance matters. That everybody that works with transport traffic in urban planning knows that physical distance matters, meaning that the closer you live or work to a station or bus terminal, the more likely you are to use public transport. And otherwise, if you have, of course, alternative to use. In Denmark and Sweden, where we have a lot of experience, it has been shown that if you have an environment that is attractive, variated, as you see on the right hand of the figure, then people are prone to actually walk up to maybe 700 or 800 meters for reaching a station when they commute to and from work. On the other hand, if you work in a very standardized office landscape with no shops, and it's not very attractive, maybe unsafe to walk, no lighting and so on, then the distance actually is very short, whether you prefer to choose public transport or not to a station. In a lot of case studies, it has been shown that people are more prone to use cars if it's possible when they work in a more unattractive environment. So these types of research confirms the benefits of spatial planning, trying to regulate urban development close to existing or new public transport nodes. Another element is, however, that perceived distance also matters. It's not only about physics. Recent studies have added the aspect of perceived distance as equally important for choosing public transport, as the tradition, instead of just using traditional focus on physical distance. In Scandinavian studies and confirmed by others, has indicated that the upgrading of the urban environment around stations and bus stops and terminals, in combination with dedicated cycling and walking paths, increase the willingness for commuters to walk or cycle to a station by up to 70%, meaning that the distance will be increased by 70% for walking if you have dedicated paths and so on. So these types of results has put new interest among urban and traffic planners into how public transport nodes can be better integrated with the surrounding urban environment. So just to finish my presentation, you can see here an animated vision picture, I would say, of a planned metro station in Malmö. And it's just the vision how we try to integrate new station and transport nodes with the surrounding urban environment and making it attractive and making people feel safe at night and at the day. So I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Leif. And it's very inspiring to see how the the city of Malmö has reached their goals ahead of time, and I wonder also if COVID has impacted any of this data. But there are additional questions from the audience, but perhaps we can move to the next speaker, and then we can table the questions at the end of it. So the next speaker is François Zirikana, and he is a specialist on e-mobility in the city of Kigali, Rwanda. And his work has been focusing on developing transport policy and legal tools, as well as cost-effective strategies for improving mobility. The floor is yours, François, and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you very much. My name is François Zirikana, as I said, in charge of e-mobility in the city of Kigali. So in this presentation, we'll see the Kigali as part of the sustainable mobility. Sustainable mobility here, we are talking about the mobility that satisfies the needs of the present generation, but also without compromising the needs of future generation. That means the transport that is the drive of economy, that protect the environment, as well as promote the equity. In that journey, the city of Kigali, it has a partnership with the Solution Plus Consortium in terms of electric mobility. The Solution Plus Consortium is in line with the Paris Agreement on the Sustainable Development Goals and the new urban agenda. This has been funded under the Horizon 2020 core, and it has a 4 years duration coming from the January 2020 to December 2023. There's allocated the budget. It has 46 partners, 116 associated and support partners. In fact, its purpose and objective is just to accelerate the uptake of e-mobility in terms of electric vehicles, as well as the charging solutions. In fact, the Solution Plus is in Africa, as well as in other countries around the world, including Europe, South America, and Asia. The same objective is to promote the electric mobility in urban areas. Then, the state of Kigali has put in place a significant coordination framework, as well as a policy and legal framework to accelerate electric mobility. This is a high political level, and this political will to accelerate the uptake of electric mobility. In that case, the state of Kigali, the implementer of the national transport policy, our transport policy has a significant goals and the direction is on electric mobility. And recently, in this April 2021, the government of Rwanda has put in place different incentives, both physical and non-physical, to accelerate the electric mobility. Those include a waiver of all taxes, import taxi, as well as VAT, as well as reduction of tariff for electric mobility for people who want to charge their electric vehicles. So in that case, the state of Kigali is now coordinating all key players of e-mobility in the state of Kigali, because most of the key players of electric mobility are now in the state of Kigali. In addition to electric mobility, the state of other measures of reducing the emissions. These include the pedestrians, as well as the cycling. Nowadays, the state of Kigali has started the e-bike sharing system in the state of Kigali, aiming as a reduction of trips made by motor vehicles. You know, the state of Kigali has a significant portion of motor taxis. In that case, in order to reduce the emissions due to motor taxis, we also introduced the electric mobility, but which is the and the other marginalized groups, so that we all have the transport for all. We want to aim for integrating all different modes of transport in one single platform. And you see the
I think that there was a bit of a connection issue, Francoise. Perhaps if you could recap the last slide, then
yeah, thank you very much. So I was saying that in order to keep reducing emissions, the city of Kigali has introduced the car-free zones as well as the car-free days. We have 2 car-free days in a month. We have the first Sunday and the second Sunday of the month. We have the car-free days where all motor vehicles are not allowed to move, or only the non-motorized people, I mean the pedestrians and the cycling, are allowed to move the city of Kigali. That's the other options of reducing emissions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francoise. I think it's great to hear from Kigali that you are valuing your open spaces also with car-free days, and at the same time you're also implementing some of the local solutions like the gendered e-taxis and also the e-bike sharing, which is, I think, fantastic to see that this is explored in your region, in your city. I would like to then move to the next speaker, which is, I would like also to remind everyone to switch to the English channel by clicking on the interpretation button. It looks like a globe at the bottom bar, and choose the English channel in case you want to switch to listen to the interpretation. And the next speaker is also from the Project Solutions Plus, and his name is Wilson Fernando Narvaez Abad, and he's Director of Technology and Development at the Mobility Secretary of Quito, Ecuador. And he has extensive experience in developing commercial software, management of security systems like access fire, biometrics, monitoring alarms. You're wondering why he is speaking in this session. I will leave it to Fernando to tell us why and why this is so relevant for us. Fernando, over to you.
Okay, thanks too. Buenos días.
Good morning. My name is Fernando Narvaez from the city of Quito, Director of the Technology Department of the Mobility Secretary of Quito. In the city, we're doing a lot of changes that we've been doing for long years, and the idea is to create cities that are smart, but also inclusive. So inclusion is very important because it's going to allow us to have friendlier cities with the environment, but also with everyone. Have this type of cities will allow us to have having a lot of things that have been done in other cities. We have also implement different functions in different stakeholders is going to be better for the city. We've created a system that is for fair management that is out of the common system, because they should be distributed and the function should be divided between different stakeholders, always thinking the citizen. Citizen must be the first and the most important part of the program. Facilitating the life of the citizens may complicate the function of the city, but we think that's what should be done. So we're going to start with the interoperable fair management system that's just to monitor the different systems in the public. This will allow us to have better decision-making process while we have in mind the citizen and making it operation systems that are easier to function. So we worked in the solution with Solution Plus, creating an app, pay the transport method through an app for citizens. We've been working on doing planning systems, buying tickets, selecting different schedules, and a system for informational management. We are developing the app, it's called La Quiteña, that will be functioning in the short term, and will allow people to pay for the different transportation methods through the app. We're also trying to reduce plastic in the system, so that's why we're using an app to reduce plastics and emissions associated to that. So this is why we're trying to integrate different solutions in one different app in order to reduce contamination associated to different methods like credit cards. So we're also working with the pedestrian stakeholder, and so we're trying to work with different companies and other cities, including Gran Paraíso, Los Angeles, Quito, Santiago, Sao Paulo, in a project that makes it more inclusive for pedestrians to access the platform of Access Map. The Access Maps platform allows us to see the routes that the pedestrians take in real time and understanding how they move around the city. All of these different elements connected to the pedestrians, the access map, the interoperable fare management system allow us to have integrated functions that make cities more inclusive. We have also created a platform for the registry of bike users to make people able to sort of register their bicycles and understand how they move around the city. We also have a place for the platform where citizens and different bike users can explain their different inconvenience or issues that they may have, having reports and understanding they may be happening in the city. So this also connected with another platform that allows us to have the different information of the cities and the citizens and the bike users and all integrated in one system. All these functions are developed in order to have different functions and understanding where we have buses and other intersections and understanding a more equitable city. We think interoperable systems are the solution to make inclusive cities through technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernando, for this presentation and also for introducing us to mobility as a service in Quito, and also highlighting how these smart technologies can help understanding better also the pedestrian cyclists besides the public transport and all the different public transport options. Then I would like to remind everyone that you can also pose your question in the Q&A part, and because after the last speaker, which is Eleonora Pires, then we will have a moment in which we will ask her all your questions. So Eleonora is the Director of Technology Development. Eleonora Pires is an architect and a specialist in territorial urban planning, and she is a representative of the city of Rosario, Argentina, and she is a comprehensive planning manager at Mobility Department of the city of Rosario. And I would like to, I'm looking forward to learn more about urban freight and logistics and also of the transport planning of the city of Rosario. Over to you, Eleonora.
Muchísimas gracias, un gusto saludarlos a todos.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to say hello to everyone, and I'm sorry for needing translation, but I hope that next time I am able to speak to you in English. Okay, I'm going to talk about our cargo bikes project that we've been working with ICLEI for sustainable logistics in Rosario. So to have a little bit of context, to be able to compare it with another cities and your own city, Rosario has almost 1 million inhabitants, one of the central cities of a metropolitan area here in Argentina, has 178 square kilometers and a density of around 44,500 inhabitants per square kilometer. In the many things I could tell you about Rosario, I just want to highlight that we have a great tradition in urban planning. We have it since 30 years, since the city started respecting and creating projects around urban planning. And that I think today they can talk about a transformation that happened from a city that became from a portuary city and into a better city, a more modern city. I also want to highlight our mobility plan that has been working for the past 10 years and that we've been developing different actions to sort of generate public transit development and active mobility and avoiding particular use of the car and the vehicle. I think that's all that we've been doing in different cities around the world. Of course, the global pandemic generated this disruption in public transportation, especially our public transport had a fell of 40% of the users during the pandemic. So we had to create an emergency policy to have transportation in risk, and today is in recuperation. But it's true that it's been critical for public transportation with the pandemic. But on the other side, active mobility had a huge exponential growth. Because of the pandemic, we developed emergency bikeways around 60 kilometers in the last year, and to achieve around 200 kilometers today. It's important to have in mind that in the last 70 years, we had already built 140 kilometers, which meant that we had an expansion of 39% in very little time. The bicycle flow was incremented in an average of 360%, and the different systems of the stations also were increased from 66 to 72 in the last year. In this context is where we started to think of the project of cargo bikes in order to obtain sustainable logistics. That's a topic that hasn't been very explored in the municipality. The project consists of a scalable pilot project to incorporate cargo bikes of zero emissions vehicles for last mile delivery. It is destined for cities, different stakeholders of the retail and citizens in general. It has 20 bike cargo bikes that are incorporated with technology, infrastructure associated to other soft actions associated to sensibilization, education, and information for volunteers that want to participate in the pilot project. The central area that was selected for this implementation is in the central area of the city because it's the most dense place of the city, and it's also the place where we have a bigger concentration of activities and already existing infrastructure for bikeways. We also have the stations with biggest movement around this area, and the type of technology we want to implement in this project is the geofence technology, which is an electric log or electronic log that allows bicycles to be logged in different stations or stops when they're doing their delivery. The company that's operating the system is the company that currently operates the logistics and the management of the current bike project, the public bike project. We thought of this project in the development of the eClays project Ecologistic, that we were working with eClay hand in hand, that consists of the different actions. One of them is the logistics plan of low emissions. And we could have hadn't thought about this project if it weren't for looking at this issue in an integrated way and understanding something that we didn't really know about in the municipality or wasn't known to us. As a part of implementing the project, we went forward in the definition of specific axes and actions associated to strategic axis that would allow us to advance in knowledge sharing and the understanding of this topic, to also incorporate vehicles and promote the vehicles of low emissions around the city. The axes are the strengthening of institutional entities and how to include a different multi-sectoral stakeholder group within the municipality and can generate a valid interlocutor between the private sector and the public sector. Another of the plan is the technological information and infrastructure. And one of the things that we sort of contemplate in this project is incorporating bikeways that are better suited for the ones that we already have, thinking in other types of vehicles, of cargo vehicles that may be included in the project, and also in the future, you have a more consolidated network for this type of vehicles. And finally, infrastructure and the technological innovation of the project seeks to incorporate the cargo bikes with a technology associated to have KPIs in the project and the generation of monitoring systems. We have different expectations from the project. We think it's a scalable project that it's easy to scale and at low cost. It's scalable through users. Could also expand it through for the coverage of the project in the different parts of the city. The technology also allows it to be easy to replicate and expand. And I think our biggest objective is to have a replicability of this project through the private sector, having the private sector acquiring the bicycles and putting them into implementation and generating logistics chain throughout the city. We also think this also takes us to a different type of productive sector paradigm and give it a new variable or just making it more inclusive and accessible. Of the public system of bikes, because it incorporates new ways of allowing people to use this technology and the transportation of people around this system. And finally, we think we can replicate this issue or this project in different cities, especially based on the Rosario experience. We are very happy to have this project because there isn't a city in Latin America that has a system of cargo bikes. So we are very excited to be able to create new knowledge and share this experience with other cities around the globe and that want to sort of sum their efforts to this initiative. So thank you very much. And I would love to answer any question you may have in the questions round.
Thank you, Eleonora, for this presentation of all the different activities that Rosario is carrying out. And since the clock is ticking, there was a question for life before on the transit-oriented development. So how to prevent essentially gentrification when you deal with transit-oriented development, because the land use value, the land value increases in the surrounding area. So gentrification can be a an unintended consequence. So, and I would like to ask all the speakers to also switch on their cameras and live if you would like to take this question.
Yes, thank you, too. It's a relevant and very good question. And it's, of course, a challenge when you make this upgrading of the urban environment around stations and other transport nodes, terminals, and so on. And as a general rule, proximity to a station does increase land value. That is a fact, of course. And if you increase also the quality around it, it will also affect the land value. And that could lead to gentrification, where less afforded people move out because they can't afford to live there. But it's a double-edged, because we have also experiences from my former work in Copenhagen in Denmark, where we have tried to connect both metro lines, and we have been planning for light rails, connecting what we could call less favorable economic districts, so to say, into the city center. And the effect from that has been actually that the attractiveness of living in these former less favored areas has been improved. and people are still relatively the same inhabitants living there, but the quality has been improved. So my answer would be that it is an issue that should be solved by planning regulations in order to sort that it is a differentiated area that is built up around stations. But if you have a free market version, of course, that would be very difficult to obtain. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I have a question for Francoise. Francoise, you are planning to have an e-bike sharing system as a strategy within the city. I wonder what is the potential in Africa, in Kigali of the e-bike system, and what have been the challenges and opportunities that you see around this e-bike sharing system?
Yeah, thank you very much. In the city of Kigali, I think people are used to cycle because they have a very complicated train. You have a hilly area. One of the challenges, we have limited cycle lanes. That's one of the challenge. Otherwise, the people are liking e-bike sharing. Even now, what we have, it seems that we are under capacity because we have many people want to use them. But because we vary very much the safety, one of the challenges is the cycle lane. Otherwise, people want to use the cycle, the bicycles for moving. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And then the other activities that you are planning is about gendered motor taxi. And I wonder if you can share a bit more why you felt that it was important to have a gender approach on the motor taxi system.
Yeah, sure. In fact, as most of the countries in the world, not only in Africa, women has been left behind in terms of transport and engineering and so on. So I think Rwanda is ranked one of the first countries to promote gender equality. So not only in the other sectors, but only want to bring in transport. So we work with our Ministry of Gender Inclusion, and then we start by, of course, the public awareness, encouraging women to come to transport. But nowadays, they are coming and we are supporting them. Of course, I said we partner with the Social Plus. And even in e-bike sharing, we have 100% women operating this system. So that's our work, and it's a political way. And we have a support from all different agencies supporting women.
Thank you on that. And I wonder if Fernando, from your side, on the mobility as a service. So data is important, and I wonder if you could elaborate a bit more about how it works, especially for pedestrians and cyclists besides public transport.
It's very important for the city that the citizens have many ways to move in the city. The cycles and the people walking in the street. I have many ideas about this. The important for the citizens and the cycles and the people walking in the street is connect. If I have many systems and these systems are not connected, don't work fine for the city. I need that the system interconnect for the people is more easy. Work in the city and have a mobility application that have the problems in the way, problems in the city for the pedestrian people and the cycles. It's very important that all system is interconnected because I have many actors in the mobility, and it's very, very important that this system is connected because there is all mobility in the city. Have the train, have the cycles, have the pedestrian, and this is very important that have applications that connect the information to the authority of the city. because if I don't have information, data about this, I have put many best rules for the city. It's very important that have in this moment in this panel we have many people that talk about the train and about the cycles, about the motorcycles. Is very important. Is very interesting that this option that Franco is saying is very important and very is break a paradigm. Franco is that many like very much that we are only the crazy people in the world that make a change in this world is very important for me and the city, and many crazy people in the world change this.
Thank you, Fernando. I think options, having options is great, and having also a way to connect all the different options it's definitely something that the users will value. And Eleonora, perhaps I think that a lot of cities are looking more on passenger transport and less on urban freight, and I wonder why Rosario is looking into urban freight and what has been your motivation, or if you can share some of your challenges and opportunities that you see in urban freight. And if I can ask you to answer it briefly because we are running out of time. Thank you.
Ok, le voy a pedir a Juliana que me ayude también.
Ask translation service for this answer. We're in pause during the pandemic. It was a good moment to sort of explore new topics within urban planning. I'm not saying that we know everything about urban transportation or active mobility, but the other initiatives that they were all already in implementation that we already knew why we couldn't implement it if that was the case. So exploring new topics was a challenge, but it's also very encouraging. Anyhow, I think that as a city, we need to think in complex solutions, not only from mobility and from mobility standpoint, but working with logistics is like the proof of that. There are things that from mobility you can do, but cities need to rethink the way they operate, and so we hope we can be in that movement.
And perhaps to wrap up for this conversation, I would like to ask all the speakers to give us their 30 seconds or one takeaway that you would like to share on whether actually all roads really lead to healthier and climate neutral cities. So who would like to be first and nominate the next one? Don't be shy. Leif, would you like to be the first one?
Well, a one-liner would be that it's not too late actually if you are trying to change the mobility within cities, but it has to be it has to be rather drastic, and our experience has been that you have to have a political commitment actually for many years actually for willing to do something about this. Otherwise it's very difficult.
Thank you, Leif. Francois, would you like to be the next one?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's high time that word readers translate what is in the papers into practice to preserve the environment. Otherwise, we will suffer the consequences. Thank you.
Fernando?
Yes, I think that the important is that work for the citizens, work for the people, and change this world in these many ways. This is very important for the world, make a change with all authorities can work for the citizens all time. I change with this the cities and the people can live better in inclusive cities. I think we are inclusive people, we are inclusive authority, we have inclusive government, and this is very important for this change.
Thank you. And to wrap up, Eleonora, your one takeaway.
Creo que incorporar la visión
I
de
think
futuro
incorporating the vision of the future surprised me when Lee was talking about the project of the metro that is for 2045. Today we don't have those type of projects that are long-term, that include a vision that is sustainable. So I think we need to think more about the future with actions. Some of them are going to be concrete, but others we're going to need to have a long-term vision and be sustainable in order to implement them. So citizens, the government, I think that should be the line of work.
So I think we covered a lot of ground, different solutions, different approaches from different cities around the globe. And of course, if you have additional questions, please share it with us. And at the same time, it's great to hear about how the city of Malmö has been looking into shifting towards a more sustainable mode of transport and sharing some of the parts of their secret sauce of how to make more livable cities, and of course also learning more about the city of Kigali and their e-mobility solutions, and at the same time from also the city of Quito and their digitalization of transport, and at the same time from Rosario, how they have been integrating urban freight and passenger transport in their planning. And without further ado, because we ran out of time, I would just like to share also one last information with all of you, which is about the framework in which this webinar has been organized. This is a webinar organized in the framework of the Road to Malmö, and the Road to Malmö leads to Malmö in May 2022 in our flagship event, which is the ICLEI World Congress. And so as far as the global pandemic allows us, then we will try to meet in Malmö and share, to exchange and inspire with one another with best practices on local sustainable development, and then learn firsthand also of some of the best practices from the city of Malmö on sustainability initiatives. And we'll have the registration has just opened, so please do register. And we look forward to see you in Malmö in 2022 next year. And last but not least, and before my colleagues in the background will run the closing video, I would like to thank everyone for your contribution, especially the speakers, and also the partners that have supported us in inviting all the speakers, and also and specifically the host city of Malmö, the Solutions Plus project, and also the IKEA Ecologistics project. And many thanks also to the technical team that is invisible and is behind the scenes that have made the organization much smoother, and also many thanks to all of you for spending your precious time with us in this 1-hour conversation. On behalf of ICLEI and all the different speakers, I would like to then also wish you a great carefree day. Thank you, everyone.